Welcome to Sandwich Seniority. My name is Robbie Haig. I'm your host. And today I am interviewing Cynthia Stead, who is Executive Director of the Sight Loss Services here on the Cape. Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's good that you're here. And what is Sight Loss Services?
Sight Loss Services is a small, private 501c3. Our main office is in West Dennis. About 30 years ago, our founder, June Wenberg, began to lose her sight to macular degeneration. She is a remarkable woman. Mm-hmm. Rather than simply sit back and accept the situation, she started this agency at her kitchen table with $400.
Wow.
Because she was appalled at the lack of services in so many ways.
Yeah.
She's 85 now, and she still comes to the office pretty much every day.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it is true. If you want something done, you really do have to start it up yourself.
And
good for her.
You know, the services, too, they tend to be, everyone on Cape knows this, they tend to be very Boston-centric. Oh. The nearest office for the Mass Commission for the Blind is in New Bedford. They have wonderful field workers, but they get stretched very thin down here, especially since so many diseases and forms of blindness are actually diseases of age,
right,
associated with age.
And do you work with the Commission for the Blind?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent.
But we have an advantage there. Because we are a private organization, we can extend help to people with varying levels of blindness. The legal definition of blindness in Massachusetts is 20/200 vision, as opposed to 20/20. Mm-hmm. At that point, the commission can help you. They can give you a special telephone, all these other things. But if your vision is 20/178, you really can't see. Mm-hmm. But the state, because it has to set firm guidelines, is very limited in what they can offer you. Right. And that's where we come in. Our organization we call ourselves of and for the visually impaired. June herself is visually impaired. Mm-hmm. 1/3 of our board, by our bylaws, is visually impaired.
Very
to keep that focus there.
Right.
We have 5 main services, and I think probably the most important are our support groups that meet monthly all across the Cape. All the towns on the Cape have a different group that they can go to once a month. And, you know, they call them support groups, but they're much more self-help peer groups.
Oh, okay.
Somebody who is just beginning to lose their sight can go there and say, you know, I can't read the microwave anymore. How do you set 2 minutes?
Sure.
And somebody else can say, well, there are bump dots, little adhesive dots. They come in colors and shapes and sizes. I put 2 dots on the 2 so I know how to press there.
Very good.
There's not a problem that somebody who's losing their sight, somebody else has already faced it. So a lot of the support group activities are sharing tips, and speakers come in too. June is very, very involved with research. You may have read this in the AP that they've gone to human trials with stem cells in order to heal varying kinds of blindness.
Excellent.
So the speakers from places like Freedom Scientific and ophthalmologists of Boston will come in and talk about advances in research and treatment too.
Where is your office?
It's in West Dennis, on the road to West Dennis Beach, actually, next to the schoolhouse. And there we have a small main office. The main office you see is simply 3 desks. There's only the 3 employees. And on June's desk, you'll notice there are 2 screens. And she doesn't have 2 computers. One screen is an Aladdin reader. And for her regular computer, she wears a headset. There's a computer program now called JAWS, which will read email and websites to you if you can't see the screen properly.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that fantastic?
You know,
we are coming a long, long way, and it's when you think that all of this technology is very, very helpful medically.
It is, but at the same time, I think that we try to focus mainly on interaction. Okay. You know, I don't drive myself, and I have a little bit of empathy for that. Right. If you've tried to live on Cape without being able to drive, you know how hard it is. If you've lost your sight, you're not going to be able to drive.
Right.
You wind up feeling dependent. You feel like a burden. You say, well, you know, the senior center bus will go to the Shaws. I like the Stop and Shop, but I don't want to ask anybody to take me there.
Sure.
And it becomes easier and easier to stay at home rather than go out and worry if somebody's staring at you.
Right.
So that what we try to do is have a variety of activities in order to keep people out in the community, keep them outgoing, and try to focus on enabling them to live independently as long as it's possible for them to do so.
Wonderful. While we're talking about this, it would be a good time for you to give your phone number and or website so that people can contact you.
508-394-3904. And the website is www.sightloss.org.
Thank you. So generally, how do you get people to your sight loss services?
A lot of our referrals come from ophthalmologists and doctors. People who are in the process of losing their sight will very often get referred to us. People who move into the area will sometimes hear from the Mass Commission saying, we think you should go to this. These people can help you out. When someone comes in, we give them what's called a coat packet. And the coat packet is filled with all of the local resources. And again, we try very hard. Everything is in 24-point type bold to make it easier to see.
Very good.
Likewise, we give everyone who comes in one of these pads. It's interesting, black and yellow is a better contrast for people losing their sight than black and white.
Yes.
I sent one of these to a lady on the island, on the vineyard, and she called me back and she said her CNA told her it was the first time in 10 years that she could actually read the shopping list.
Wow.
Because she had the contrast and the lines to guide her.
Excellent.
We give address books, large print address books.
Oh, wonderful.
But, also too, check registers. And there are raised line checks. They're black and yellow, and the lines on them are raised so you can feel them with your fingers.
Really?
Because I know from my own parents and from other seniors too, you hate ceding control over paying your bills and things like that to somebody else.
Right.
So we try to give people the tools that they can continue to do these things on their own as well.
Independence is wonderful.
Exactly. And there was a lady once, for example, that we had set her up with a talking glucose meter so she could continue to do her own sugar. Time went by, and she couldn't really see her hand well enough to do it effectively. So we set her up with a lamp, an ordinary-looking gooseneck lamp, but it flip top, and it's a magnifier.
Oh, wow.
So she could look underneath and see.
Very good.
And we have a series of different lamps in the office. We're kind of like the old J.C. Penney catalog stores. You remember, you could go in and you could look and see, do you like the curtain, do you like the bedspread, and say, okay, I'll take one of those.
Very good.
We have a lot of those things in the office, in the resource room in West Dennis.
Very good.
Some of these devices are not expensive at all, and some of them are very expensive. You don't want to just rush out and buy something. And likewise, too, something I've learned is that losing your sight is like fingerprints. Even two people that have glaucoma or two people that have macular, it's going to hit them in different ways.
Sure. Very good.
Macular, it's a dot directly in front of your pupil, and it follows as you go from side to side. You have to learn how to function with only your peripheral vision. Glaucoma is a cloud. Now, with glaucoma, you need a bright white light like this. But if you have macular, that's painful.
Really?
Because your eyes are so sensitive. So when you think losing sight, it's not a monolithic thing. And that's why we have all these different kinds of lamps and strengths. One thing that we have...
It's very good that you bring this up, because I'm sure there are people out there, hopefully there are people watching, who don't or haven't been tested.
That's true.
And if they're having a problem and they know that the problem can be solved to a degree, that's what we're here for.
I think sometimes people who, in their heart of hearts, know there's a problem. They don't want to go to the doctor because...
Don't want to hear it.
It isn't even that. If your eyesight is bad enough, you could lose your license to drive. And we all know on Cape Cod how crucial that is.
Yes.
But we have other little things too, like these bulbs. They come from Scandinavia. They're called Chromolux bulbs. And they mimic daylight. They were made to treat SAD, the seasonal affective disorder. They're strong, but they're not harsh. like the studio
Okay,
lights are.
Very good.
So if you have something like macular, they go into any regular light fixture.
Okay.
It will provide you a stronger light without being a harsh, bright light.
Very interesting.
There's, yeah, that's
And they come from where?
Scandinavia.
Amazing.
Scandinavia. They're supposed to be good for you anyway and make you cheerful and all of that stuff, but it's a good use for that too.
Now, you made a comment about some of these things can be very costly. Are people helped with the cost of some of these things?
We do have a fund that's from the Davenport Foundation in the Mid-Cape, and they've given us money so that we can defray the cost for anybody who truly can't afford it. Sometimes, too, we wind up helping people that can later on help themselves. The eyeglasses, especially for certain kinds of conditions, are horribly expensive sometimes.
Right.
A single pair can be $900.
Right.
But I had once a call from a lady who said, I've been out of work for 8 weeks. I've just had surgery on my eyes. She said, I have insurance, but they won't make the glasses until I give them the copayment. I don't have $150.
Yeah.
And that seemed reasonable to me. I talked to the doctor, and they said, we understand her problem, and we feel for her, but you know what? We're not going to be reimbursed the true cost of those glasses by the insurance company.
Yeah.
And frankly, in this economy, we used to be able to do payment plans, and people renege on them.
Yes.
So we have had to make it our policy, you have to have the copayment first.
Okay.
Because we are a private institution, we sent the money, and she got the glasses.
Very good.
But she's already made a donation back of about half that amount.
Nice.
People are really very good.
People are very good. People do pay back.
We do not charge for any service at all. We do not have any income guidelines.
Really?
And we've been around for 31 years, so people aren't abusing that.
Wow.
You know, losing your sight is traumatic. It's horrible and stressful. You don't want to have to sit as the darkness closes in wondering if you qualify.
Wow.
We just,
You are right. You're right.
we just help. If you need it, we're there. No one should have to go through something like losing their sight by themselves.
I agree. Wow. Oh my goodness. Now, you talked about people assisting someone with poor sight by reading the grocery list on this sheet that you have. So they very often do have help at home too.
One of the things we do is home independence visits.
Okay.
And a lot of that is simply auditing where things are. For instance, Donna, one of the ladies that does this, will put reflective tape on a stair riser or on a threshold just to give you a little visual clue as you walk around.
Wonderful.
She'll help to reorganize lights and clutter and rugs and make suggestions about, well, you know, if you had this, then it would be helpful.
Sure.
We have a lot of gadgets, kitchen gadgets, for instance, extra large timers. You may never have seen one of these. This is called a say when, and this is not the end of the world.
I have never seen one.
You put it over the edge of your cup, and as the level of the liquid rises,
Oh my
you know to
goodness.
stop pouring. It used to be you had to put your finger in the glass
Right.
and then scald your thumb with the hot
Sure.
coffee. You just put this on the edge.
Isn't that wonderful?
It's little things like this that make you feel as though you can stay on your own.
Right.
You can do little things by yourself and for yourself.
Yeah.
And we have an entire little stock area of things like
Excellent.
that. Handheld magnifiers with lights built into them. But we have 8 strengths, from 2x all the way to 8x, so that you can sit and you can test it out on a book or on a newspaper, just to go up and down the scale and find out what will work for you.
Excellent.
And we have these too. I'm fascinated by these. These are Max TV glasses. A lot of the things are for close work, magnifiers, readers. If you want to watch us on TV, these
Very good.
are like binoculars. The 2 eyes function independently, so you can tune them
Really?
in to look across the room.
Wow. Isn't that amazing?
On the other hand, these are $85.
Yeah.
That's what the manufacturer charges for them.
Yeah.
So that we would want you to come in, test it out, try it out. There are catalogs, and they're very good with all of these things in them. And you know yourself, if you ever shopped in a catalog, everything looks beautiful.
Of course it does.
And then when you get it and you look at it, say, well, I don't like that.
Right.
That's not what I thought at all.
Right.
So we try to keep in stock these different kinds of devices. And you may come in and say, oh, I want to get those. And then when you get this, say, but try this too. And you find out that a fixed magnifier on your head works better for you.
Yeah, that's very good. So you say you have 3 people working in the office?
Yes. Yes, I'm the only full-time person.
Oh, okay.
But my job, I was joking earlier, I'm like Albert, I stay in the bat cave. And I, answer the phone, do the paperwork.
Yeah.
And June Wenberg, our founder, and Mary McGann are 2 of our principal coordinators that arrange for the transportation and the support groups. We spend a lot of time on that. Just
I'm sure you
the
do.
telephoning. We have over 40 different volunteer drivers.
That was my next question.
Yes.
Very good. You do have volunteers.
We do.
Which is wonderful.
We do. And Melinda Redfield is our education director. She puts out our newsletter, which is quarterly.
Very good.
And like all of our media, she puts it out in 3 formats. She puts it out in regular print, she puts it out in extra large print, and she puts it out on cassette. We have a lot of booklets and pamphlets about gardening, kitchen tips, home safety, fire prevention. But if you don't, reading is tiring.
Yes.
Because something like macula, where you're having to try to catch the words with only your peripheral vision. You can read, but after a while, you just say, oh, this is so much work. So we put them on cassette
Very
as
good.
well.
Do you also have books on cassette?
We do. But truthfully, the Perkins Library and the Cape Library Systems are very, very good with that.
Wonderful.
But we can help you do the paperwork to get the Perkins system or to get the special radio from another local charity here, the Audible Local Ledger. The Audible Local Ledger reads the local paper.
Yes.
If you watch TV news, you can find out what's going on in Roslindale, but you're never going to find out what's happening in Chatham.
Isn't
Unless
that
something
true?
terrible happens in Chatham, and then we're all set.
That's right. We don't want that happening.
But the Audible Local Ledger reads the Cape Cod Times and the Register and the Enterprise. And I used to read the supermarket circulars
Yes.
for stopping.
Very
This
good.
week, ground beef is $1.99, which is how long ago I read them. But
Yeah.
but that way, the Audible, we can put you in touch with these things.
But you're putting us in touch also with the fact that the most minuscule thing that we do, it's very, very important to someone who can't see and read.
And a lot of it is just, always ask the person, do you need help? It's like the old joke about the Boy Scout helping the lady across the street only to find out she didn't want to go. Do you want guidance? Do you need help? Is there anything I can do? Or somebody saying, the chair is on your left about 6 inches. Little things like that.
Right.
But always talk to the person and ask them what they would like is, the best way to do that.
And the screening, how do you do the screening for the people that you're dealing with?
Well, we don't really.
You don't, okay.
No, we have people who come in, doctors, professionals. None of us are medical professionals.
Okay.
What we are mostly is a clearinghouse of information. Are you a veteran? We know who you can call at the VA in order to get a stationary reader. Do you have this condition? These doctors are specialists in it in the Cape Cod area.
Wonderful.
So that we will hook you up with the people that you need. A lot of our, besides the support group, I think that information referral is the second largest part of what we do. People move to the Cape.
Right.
And they don't know the local things here that we have available. And quite frankly, it bothers me sometimes that people who have lived here for years and years, when they receive a diagnosis, say, that's it, I can't stay here. I've got to sell the house and go live with the kids in Idaho because there's nothing for me. It's a snap thing, and the doctors are very, very good about referring people to us.
Good.
But you need to be able to investigate what is available to you.
Do you have a lot of people from the Sandwich area who come to you?
We do have quite a few. Sandwich is, I think, about number 4 in our in the 15 towns because we keep statistics.
Okay, and you do operate in 15 towns, thank
Yes,
you.
and on the islands.
Very good.
It's the Cape and Islands.
But you do have a lot of people from Sandwich, number 4.
Absolutely. And this past year, because we just finished doing this for the year end, in calendar 2011, we had 10,373 units of service to 1,956 separate people.
Oh my goodness. Wow, the need is there.
Ever since I began working at Sight Loss, I've been amazed. Every person I talk to either has a relative or a friend.
Yeah.
A lady I worked with for years when I used to be an insurance agent said, "Oh, I have glaucoma. I get injections for that." I had no idea.
Right. Wow.
And we have these things there to try to help people to to keep doing what they're doing. I remember a realtor came in and said that she needed something because she couldn't read the MLS listings anymore.
Wow.
And we were able to set her up with a sort of magnifier that helped her continue in her career.
Wow. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So the people who are eligible for your services,
Anybody with visual impairment.
that's wonderful. They just need contact you?
Right. And relatives and friends and caretakers too. We have a library of books that we can lend out about learning to cope with macular degeneration or retinopathy. What we have large print books, this large, cookbooks, storybooks.
Very good.
And we do try to do other things too. We hold art classes. In May, we'll be doing museum tours again at the Cape
Really?
Museum of Fine Arts.
Wow.
The Museum of
that
Fine
is
Art.
wonderful.
They are wonderful. The Museum of Fine Arts staff sent their staff to the Boston Museum of Fine Arts to be trained. And now they have docent-led tours where the people with visual impairment are able to wear curator gloves to touch the art.
Oh, dear.
And we have painting classes. We've done them now for 2 or 3 years. And I'm hoping to bring them to the Upper Cape next year. We give people a palette and a mixing area, and they use mostly sponges and palette knives. And it is remarkable, just because you've begun to lose your sight, it doesn't mean you've lost your creativity or your interest.
True. Very good.
Someone with severe glaucoma may not be able to see shape, but they can work with color. Our instructor is a lady named Frances McLaughlin, and she's a professional artist. She had been very representational. As she began to lose her sight, she became more impressionistic and did much more with palette knife, sponges, and color. Now, she's lost a little more sight, and she's going from being from being like Renoir, to just doing color and shape. But as she likes to say, Michelangelo was blind by the time he finished the Sistine Chapel. Georgia O'Keeffe went blind. Monet went blind.
Yes. Isn't that
And
amazing?
they kept painting.
Yeah.
Next,
The desire that did not leave.
exactly. But also, too, it's unleashing creativity. It's getting you out where you can paint and work with others.
Right. Right.
And those are the kinds of things, in addition to the support groups,
Sure.
that we want to foster so that people will have a place to find things to do and to go to.
Wonderful. Now, talking about the classes, you have other classes besides the painting classes?
We're working on them now.
Okay.
We received another small grant to try to expand this to other institutions on Cape. There are so many small museums and libraries and exhibits, and people haven't lost their interest in them.
Right.
That we want to be able to try to translate what we've learned from working with the museum and with our painting classes to Museum of Natural History or Fire or and other things. So we'll be doing that over the course of this coming year, developing other new programs, and we'll let people know as soon as we get them going.
Oh, how wonderful that is. With this technology that we have, this wonderful, wonderful technology, it changes all the time. We know that from our computers, don't we?
Speaking of which, sometimes it's easier to see white on black instead of, or black on yellow. These are stick-ons
That will go on the keyboard.
that go on any keyboard.
Oh my goodness. So they don't have to stop doing what they're doing
Exactly.
on the computer. It's amazing. It's amazing all of the stuff that's coming up. So what do you foresee new and wonderful in 2012?
I'm not sure how wonderful, but I do foresee an even greater increase in need for service.
Really?
So many diseases of the eye are diseases of age.
Right, right.
And just like June, when she
Yeah.
was in her 50s and began to lose her sight, people say, oh, there's Braille.
Yes.
If you're 57 years old and start to lose your sight, you're not going to run out and learn Braille. It's like learning Italian.
Yeah.
It's a complex language.
Sure.
So having devices like these can enable people to continue as they always have, but make it easier for them.
Yeah. Wow. And of course, you mentioned seniors, and blindness generally happens at, no, I shouldn't say generally, very often happens in senior situations.
We have younger people. We have a resource, and I believe it's the only one on Cape, for younger people as well. We have toys, games. We have raised line coloring books.
Really?
The coloring, and the same way that you would show a child a square and say, this is a square.
Yes.
You can feel it on the coloring
Oh, my
book.
goodness.
Or you remember the little eggs that you would hide for Easter?
Yes.
We have those, but they emit a beep. Rather than being able to see them, you have to hear
Wow.
them and find them that way.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I would never have dreamed that you were dealing with children.
Yeah, at any age and any condition. And if we don't have it there, we can find out who does.
Well, absolutely fantastic. Really, really fantastic. I think we've covered most of the things that I was hoping we would. Is there any last? I'm seeing in front of you a paper with blocks.
This is one of the canvases.
Oh,
This is one of the canvases for the painting class. By having the grid, it makes it easier to keep perspective.
oh, wonderful.
One of the paintings.
Thought of everything.
I didn't think of this. Francis McLaughlin, our artist, thought of this.
Very good.
Francis is very, very clever at these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this is one of our painting canvases, so that you can see what you're doing. Sometimes you can put dots in there too,
Oh,
so that as you look at something, you can translate it back to here. In the same, you have the old joke about the artist.
yes, right.
You can,
Very good. I also see what looks like a watch there.
it is a talking watch. There are so many talking things.
Yeah. Wow.
I have in the shop. I have at the office a talking meat thermometer.
Really?
I'm ready to buy one for myself instead of trying to put my head in the oven and read the little dial.
You're right.
Because
You're right.
it's important, if you're living alone, if you're losing your sight, you know you have to cook this meat to an internal temperature of 180 degrees. And you're looking at the dial and trying to, is that pork or chicken? I'm not sure.
Right.
You stick it in, you press a button, it will say the temperature is 75 degrees.
Absolutely.
Don't eat it yet.
Fantastic. Cynthia, my head is loaded with all of the information that you brought here today, because we all need to know about it, even people who are not having a problem with their sight. Because,
Friends, relatives, caretakers, neighbors.
as you say, there are many people out there who are having difficulty, and many of them may not be telling anyone their problems, so we have to be aware.
And again, I want to stress, there is no charge, there is no consultation,
Wonderful.
there is no income guidelines, qualification. All you have to say to us is, I'd like your help.
That is fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. At the end of the show, I like to give a saying pertinent to what we're doing. Do you have something for us?
I do. The only real disability is a bad attitude.
I like that. Very good. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you out there for watching us. And this is Robbie Haig, your host. I hope you'll be back with us next time. And if you do have topics that you would like discussed on this show, by all means, get in touch with us here at Sandwich Access TV. And this is Robbie Haig saying thank you for Sandwich Seniority.